Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 15th of February, a day after Valentine's Day. Hopefully, everyone had a fantastic Valentine's Day. And here in the US, that is a huge celebration. And I think this past weekend was Super Bowl weekend as well. So a lot of celebration here in the US. Let me get to the panel. Today, we have Ken with us, who is part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Ken. And we also have Patricia with us, who is part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Patricia. So here is the question, Ken. I'll get started with you. April said she wouldn't be able to make it, so hopefully Caesar joins. I haven't heard from Caesar yet, but Kelly and April won't be able to make it. But the question is, my adult children have stepped away from a relationship with me. I'm having a hard time dealing with this. Does anyone have any advice to help stop the pain of this rejection? I understand that people come and go throughout our lifetimes, but I never expected to lose my children and my grandchildren. So if you want to speak to that, and I'll go tag everyone on the Facebook group. Thank you.
Yes, I can talk about that. That the adult children, in many ways, that how they were treated, how different things in their past, there could have been traumas, things that have happened that they don't want to remember, things where if a parent has, I know in my case, let's say if a parent had to work a lot, that the kids didn't have either mom or dad around as much, or it could have been the father working a lot and the mother not working as much. So there's a lot of different variables depending on personality, depending on age, depending on when or what the upbringing was for the child. And then when they get older, they start experience their feelings and their emotions. And what they weren't able to express when they were younger will come out in their teenage life or even their young adult life. And they will start expressing things in ways that may seem resentful. They may get angry. And so their development will continue. And in many, many cases, the development has been withdrawn. It could be dysfunctional because of how they were, how their feelings or emotions were developed. So it all will come out in future time. And in many cases, people come together so people can get triggered, stuff will come up. And if we're dysfunctional or if we are angry, or in many cases, some people have addictions, and it will get played out in ways that aren't healthy. And until there's enough pain and suffering, whether we're caretakers, whether we have different addictions, that development will come to the surface. And many parents, whether they may be hanging on to guilt, they may be hanging on to anger, they may be hanging on to shame, whatever it may be, whatever they were hanging on to, in many cases, is given to the younger siblings. And so it can be a generational, what happened to me, we pass it on to generations. And in many cases, the unconsciousness, we don't even see it. We don't understand it until we've had enough pain and suffering, until things in our life aren't working. We go through different pain. And then we start talking with like-minded people, or people that have been through similar circumstances, then we can start to change. So it really is a process, and it's something where, in some cases, the parents need to get help rather than think there's just something wrong with their kids. They may be holding on to something that they're unaware of, that how their kids might have developed, or how they're expressing their feelings or emotions. So
Incredible. That's what I picked up that same point, Ken, is if I'm saying my adult children have stepped away from a relationship with me, where did that child pick up that conditioned pattern from?
mhm,
You were the mother or you were the father, right? I'm assuming it's a parent, a mother or a father. I don't know if it's a mother or it's a father. But if somebody's saying my adult children have stepped away from a relationship with me, and I know Rob has joined, I pasted the question in the chat, Rob, for you. So if somebody's saying my adult children have stepped away from a relationship with me, then that means, where did that child learn that conditioned pattern from? So that means you've taught the child, you've done it yourself. And the reason why I say this is my mother used to be that kind of a person, that to her, if she did not, like Eckhart says that people get attached to their opinion. She would get attached to her opinion, and she would stop talking to her sister, her own blood related biological sister, her own mother, her own, like my dad, right? She would stop talking to the partner. Like, I think this is like a conditioned pattern in humanity where people, what do we call it? Like, is it like some kind of, if you are not going to give me what I want, then I'm going to withdraw that love from you.
yes, it's a power play. It's something, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. And it's an unconscious thing where we actually project the very thing we don't want onto others because we don't know how to deal with it. We're only trying to deal with it the very way we knew how. And it comes through illusions, it comes through lies. I'm going to give you an example. My mother and father were not emotionally available. I grew up where I was a very sensitive feeling little boy.
Mhm.
And it would be like, I always said I could never do this to other people. Well, when I got older, I did the same thing. And so I did the exact same thing. So I was powerless over it. So it's amazing how the very thing we don't want, and I became emotional. And so what it was is, but I wasn't emotional to other people. Until I learned to be emotional to myself, I did not know how to give it to others because of the pain and suffering that I was holding on to, but I didn't know how to detect it. I didn't know how to hold myself, and other people around me didn't know how to give it to me either. So I kept attracting people in my life because that was familiar. And so the cycle just repeated. So it's amazing how this works.
Beautiful. Yes. And then, so I'm having a hard time dealing with this. Then the question arises, it almost is like, I always say we are co-creating our personal reality. Our personality is co-creating our personal reality. So what did I do? The question should be, what did I do to cause that separation between myself and my children?
That's very, very true. And that's
Right?
exactly.
It's not so much as my child. It's easy to blame another and say my child actually is not talking to me. But the examination that we need to do is what is within me that is cutting myself off from my child or anybody, right? It doesn't have to be a child. It can be a coworker. It can be a partner. It can be sister, brother, all the gazillion relationships that we have in this world, right? It can
Yes.
be with the cashier. So that's where presence matters, right?
Hmm. And
The
that's why
more,
a lot of relationships actually trigger each other. And a lot of relationships have the same wounds. And so what it is they are they don't know how to address it. They don't know how to talk about it. So they blame, they're critical, they find fault with their partner. And then if that partner took on very similar things from their parents, that's familiar to them. They
right?
don't know. So it's amazing how this works. It's
So the antidote, does anyone have any advice to help stop the pain, is to, even if the child is not talking to you, you stay connected with the child. You keep sending love to the child, right? You keep loving your child is the antidote to the pain. Is you don't withdraw your love just because they said, I'm not going to, mom or dad, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. You stay away from my children, right? If a child said that to their mother, then you say, yeah, you may say that. And I've learned that with my son. When my son was little, I think I read it in one of the parenting books that no matter if the child, because in their emotions when they're little, they just say, I hate you. You tell them, no, you cannot eat chocolate, right? Or no, you cannot have that ice cream. And their first response is, I hate you. This culture, like the grade school, public school system, is that the first thing they say is, I hate you. And I always said, but I love you.
exactly.
I never said, no, you should not say that. You don't say I hate you to your mother. That I would never reprimand him for that. No matter if he says, I don't like you or I hate you or whatever he may say, but I would always say, but I love you. But at this time, you cannot have ice cream because this is not the right time. You need to eat your dinner, or you need to, whatever reason. I'm just giving the ice cream as
Absolutely. Yes. And
as an example.
right. And lots of times, just what you were saying, Poonam, about when a child says, I hate you, I don't like you, or whatever, they're really expressing their feelings. So if you tell the child that, no, you can't say that, you shouldn't say that, or you get reprimanded,
You're denying their feelings,
you're
right?
denying their feelings. Exactly.
Right.
And they're actually going to get worse with them because now anger, they don't know how to express. So later on, it will be rage.
Perfect. Perfect.
I do have some real life experience with this, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Sure. Ken, are you done with
Yes.
what
Yeah.
you were going to say?
I'm
Yes.
good right now. Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Rob. And something is going on with my video. I'm going to just leave it on, however weird it is, because it's coming in and out. So go ahead, Rob. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for letting me join in.
Mhm.
I agree with everything that everyone has said. I had an exact scenario of this kind where my daughter decided to stop speaking to me. And I know without a shadow of a doubt now that I was the one that created all of that. It was a emotion of fear inside of me, and unattached to my emotions. I was not connected to my emotions at all. And I wasn't there for her. And she stopped speaking to me and she moved. And over the course of a couple of years, text message and phone calls every day. I made these every day. And there was no turning around. She was not answering. But the thing that I did differently was I sent love vibrationally, in my own mind, in my mind space, in my atmosphere, my world. I turned my emotional state of being completely around. And I knew Hannah was going to feel that. It was more important for me to send that emotional love, whether she spoke to me or not. And I made that one of my ground rules going forward was it makes no difference if she ever speaks to me again. I'm going to go to my grave sending her love. And I did that. And eventually she answered a text and then a phone call. And now we'll have conversations for 2.5 hours. And we talk about the deepest stuff and how I was made some horrible mistakes. And she's forgiven me, and we can talk in depth like real two loving human beings. And I know I created the mess, and I truly believe that my vibration of love that I sent out 2,500 miles away was what helped to change that scenario.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rob. Actually,
Sure.
Byron Katie, I don't know if it is in her book, Loving What Is, or whether I heard her just giving advice to somebody. Byron Katie was saying that if your child is not, is saying, you can visit me, right? What stops you from bringing your car all the way up to their house and just sitting in that car and watching them leave the house, coming in? You can give your love that way, right? If you're in the same, sometimes you're not in the same city. Like I know there was a point in time my son was in Connecticut, and it's not like um, I had stopped talking to him or anything of that sort, but sometimes the child is not with you, right? Not always with you. So if you're in the same city, at least you can do that. You can drive over to their place. I told one of my coworkers who had this kind of a relationship with her son, I said, if it's his birthday, buy him birthday gifts and leave it on outside his door. It does not matter whether he recognizes that you left it. It's your intention, right? The universe is listening to your intention.
Yes.
So beautiful. Thank you, Rob, for that.
Actually, Poonen, if you don't mind, I did actually do something similar, a little bit more extravagant. I was living on the East Coast. I now live on the West Coast, and I surprised both of my children when they left as adults. And I drove 2,500 miles across the United States without them knowing. And I purchased a house, and I showed up at their place of residence and said, hey, jump in. And they said, what are you doing here? And they were completely shocked. Unfortunately, that triggered my daughter's emotional state. And our relationship regressed slightly because of that. That was just an emotional trigger that was really hard for her to deal with. But I did something similar. I actually moved across the United States.
Awesome. Incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much for that example. Perfect.
Sure.
So that's how you heal, because like I was telling Ken, that the greatest lesson I learned from my mother was, the moment I read this, it reminded me of how my mother used to cut off relationships with people, like whether it was her husband's family. So I have no relationship with my cousins, or I did not have relationships with my cousins on my father's side, because she cut all relationships off, right? So I kind of feel that is a condition pattern you can pick up. My condition pattern was the reverse. I went, that is not something that I would ever do. I love my father so much. I would love to have a relationship with all their family, and I would love to have relationships with everybody. So when I went through the same divorce and everything, right, I continued to let my son have a relationship with his grandparents, with his uncle, aunt. I never came in between my, my ex-husband's family and my son. Uh, The child needs to be showered with love, right? That's whether it is a grandparent from the father's side or a grandparent from the mother's side, it doesn't matter. So he got showered with love from his father's side. And I live in the US. There's nobody from my family here in the US. From his father's side, he has like an uncle, he has grandparents. In fact, he's actually at his grandparents' house right now. So just imagine, right? That you can learn the same thing. You can look at a condition pattern and perpetuate the condition. And this is an example I want to give the whole world. You can perpetuate that condition pattern and you can start cutting relationships off. But you also have this conscious choice making where you can go, oh, I won't do that. I see the wrong in that action, and I will not cut the relationships off. Right? And the moment you do that, you end up having healed relationships with everyone else. That's what I feel. That all your relationships with people are always loving relationships, right? No matter who it is. And that's what I've experienced. With that, I'll go to Patricia. Patricia, you want to talk about this? Thank you.
Thank you. How incredible that we all have examples that are right about this topic. So thank you so much for the question. And I saw right away, I mean, what Rob and Ken and you mentioned, that there's something in us. So saying that my adult children have stepped away, this is, let's say, if there is no judgment in that statement, okay, they stepped away from a relationship with me. But then the next question is, does anyone have any advice to stop the pain of this rejection? So it's really, there is a judgment in that, and there is criticism. It's like almost, I didn't expect them, but it didn't just happen, right? So like Rob said, there is some kind of history that caused it. So something was done, and what I see the best way to stop the pain is to forgive, work on that forgiveness, finding the forgiveness, or being aware that whoever did this, the parent, acted out of unconsciousness, and the children are acting out of unconsciousness. So in a sense, there's nothing to forgive, and it meant to happen, but it's a gift because it caused this person to look at themselves, right? It's like, because it's really very much deeper than just, okay, I just want to stop the pain. And I'm sure more unconscious people would just maybe completely deny it, or say it's something wrong with the children, or they can stop drinking, or just finding a different way not to address it. But I think that the best way is to find a practice, whichever practice works, can be meditation, any form of that, just like self-inquiry, to find out that that's really a gift, and this is the time to open your heart and start forgiving and start being present in the present moment. And out of that presence, like Rob said, that love, sending that higher vibration will change. Because if someone did not do the work and they just gonna send love and stuff, but there is no energy, right kind of energy on the higher vibration, it will be even, I think, might be worse. It might be like trying to grab something out of that, and kind of like desperate or needy, or so this is definitely a great opportunity for self-healing And once that happens, everything else will fall into place. And like in Rob's example, you know, you don't do it because you hope that the kid will notice and come back like in a reward. You just do it because in the act of doing it, you're healing your heart. And so whatever works, either working on forgiveness or staying in the presence, because once you start staying in the presence more and more, being aware, things will show up. Like Ken always said, the mirrors you will see, you know, from outside, but it's really a mirror what's inside. You will realize that. And it's gonna be every day. And as far as pain, I think it's probably not a pain, but maybe a suffering, because pain is like physical, more physical. So I don't know if there is a physical pain, but yeah, suffering, maybe reading some books. I mean, whoever asked that question is here with us. So Eckhart's books really help about ego, how we identify ourselves with certain positions. And here, you know, expectations. I had the same expectations that my child needs to love me no matter what. And she has to listen to me and she has to be always with me. So when she started, maybe as a teenager, being a teenager, had her own ideas, we had fights and went on her level. And then the first minute she had an opportunity to go for college, she chose the college that's the furthest away. I mean, maybe there is some other, but she knew that I wouldn't be driving 3 hours, knowing that I have anxiety about driving to, you know, to see her or to do anything. So that was her way of leaving me away. But thanks to this group and many of our discussions and meditations, I understood that a lot of people, my ex-husband also leaving me, it was a gift, because there was a time for me to really work on myself, to heal myself. And interestingly enough, slowly, she becomes more open, because now, first of all, I did apologize, but it came because when I was apologizing before, she didn't believe me. It's like, yeah, you're saying that now, and then you're gonna do the same thing. So again, it was a mirror. It's like, oh, okay, hold on. So I need to really mean it, which means that I need to heal something, and then the apology will really meaningful. But apology is not enough. Then you got to actually almost prove it by being a better person, that they can trust the fact that you healed. So there is no one quick fix for this. This is now the lifetime healing practice but it's exciting. It's just happening and it's possible. What our testimonials prove that, you know, it works and it's worth it. It's the most, I don't know, Rob, Ken, you put on, it's the most rewarding feeling when you actually feel that pouring of unconditional love for you, that you don't expect anything in return. And this is how you stop the pain, by feeling gratitude for every moment, sending them love and being grateful. Gratitude changes the energy immediately. Like, find one thing a day that you're grateful for. Wake up, Caesar's always said it, just wake up and say thank you, right? The first minute you open your eyes, say thank you. And that gratitude during the day will start changing energy and miracles will happen. And that's what you're gonna be broadcasting into the field, quantum field, versus, you know, poor me, I'm painful, my kids left me, what do I do? You know, it's like that victim kind of identity. no, you co-created this and now you can co-create changing it. But to empower yourself, forgive yourself, and start healing. That's a gift that the kids gave you. And it's like April, if she was here, I'm sure maybe she would have said something about soul's contract. That's the contract you had with each other, the group of souls. That's exactly what they were meant to do. They meant to leave you so you can heal. And you never know, there's unlimited possibilities in that quantum field. So once you get yourself on the higher vibrations, then you pick the opportunity. You start visualizing yourself being an amazing, happy family down the road, you know, having wonderful celebrations, everybody laughing, feeling that joy, like it's now, like it's happening right now. And that's what you will attract, the law of attraction, right? But it cannot happen if you're in that space right now of poor me, they left me, I feel suffering. Take it away. What do I do, right? So it's just meditate, stay with our group, get to our meditations on Fridays and just get the practice going. And a practice that helped me tremendously, just stay showing up for yourself and sticking with a practice, being persistent and repeating and repeating and repeating. Right, Ken? That's what happened to us. We just kept doing, and every time something else opened up. Ken, his relationship with his ex-wife, right, is an example of how incredible it's right now going. So it's not even children, but it's anybody, any meaningful relationships. So thank you. Gratitude, present practice, healing, healing, healing.
Thank you, Patricia. Louise is helping us online, and she said to let go of judgment does not mean that you don't see what they do. It means that you recognize their behavior as a form of conditioning, and you see it and accept it as that. You don't construct an identity out of it for that person. This is Eckhart speaking about it in Stillness Speaks. So I think, Ken, you talked about letting go of judgment, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've also learned that fear has a language, and it's a lie. It's not the truth. And understanding more, fear has a frequency, and it's a fear. Even Patricia, as you were saying about when you mentioning your daughter, and you were saying about the college, and she says she knew I didn't want to drive there. Well, the kids, our kids, are everybody, they know our weaknesses. So if you have a fear about going to the school, you might have an elevated voice around it that she'll pick up, because you said that she came back and says, oh, you know, you're going to slip and do the same thing over again. Okay. And so that there is something that if we're not in that loving energy, that's a good example of that is our stuff that we haven't worked through, that our kids are already feeling. And it's amazing. And as you're just saying, I went skiing. I hadn't been in the place. Where did I used to go with my son? Believe me, more tears, more releasing of what I need to do, because it brought up stuff for me. So it's just amazing. And I look at life now it's a gift. And when I am with other like-minded people, it just constantly rolls over. More and more stuff comes to the surface, and it's amazing. The healing process. So
Thank you, Ken. Louise also said, love does not fear or want anything. And then Lakshmi actually said that we could say Om Kritajnaham, which is I'm grateful, right? A state of gratitude, which is what Patricia talked about. So, Patricia, you pointed out, like, since we talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings as well. So the other part that this person could do is, yes, your present moment is that your children are not, you're not seeing your children. But in your meditation, you could do the tuning. Dr. Joe Dispenza has his meditation called Tuning into New Potentials. And you could do the same R or F. You said F for family, right? Or R for relationship. You could, he says, put a letter, whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for abundance, do A with a squiggly line around it, implying that the squiggly line, when you think of the letter, then you're talking about creating the energy field around you, around that letter, right? Or around that manifestation. So the squiggly lines are actually the energy field, represents the energy field. And then he says on the left side, write what you want from that relationship. So you may say, I want a loving relationship with my children. I want to see my grandchildren every day. I want to have my grandchildren to look up to me every day, whatever is on the left side. But on the right-hand side, he says, find the emotions. So what would happen if you saw your grandchild every day? My life would be filled with joy. I would have joy for existence. If my children had a relationship with me, I would feel love every day, right? So then he says, work yourself through these emotions. When you do the tuning into new potentials, you are in this present moment feeling a joyful life. And that is not what this person is feeling. This person is not feeling the joyful life, the joy for existence, right? The joy for, Patricia, you want to talk about what you did for your, I mean, quite a few people over here know that we joined the remote coherence healing with Dr. Joe Dispenza. So that gives me, like, even on Monday was Valentine's Day. When was, or Tuesday was Valentine's Day. Even on like Monday, we did it. Tuesday morning, we started off Tuesday morning with a healing session. And the fact that you bring your heart to complete strangers and open it up, it's like you're giving that joy for existence to a total stranger. And there is so much, like, you're steeped in gratitude and you're steeped with this sacredness that, oh my God, what a sacred feeling is this? And you're starting your Valentine's Day by opening your heart. So Patricia, you want to talk about what you told me before we started the Facebook Live, which is a beautiful manifestation on your part. So the divine is speaking through you. So I wanted, you always come up with these questions that people think that you're having the most troubling time in your life, but I want people to see how exemplary you are in what you did. So go ahead. Thank you.
So I knew it was Valentine's Day coming. And at this moment in my life, I realized, this is a celebration. People have that visions of being in love and that romantic, giving the roses and presents and taking each other. There's a lot of that images. So we are conditioned to expect that. And if we don't have it, we're miserable. We sad, we upset, we hate it. We just don't want to deal with the day. So knowing that at this point in my life, I live alone, I'm divorced, my child is away, so I do not have that anybody special that could bring me a rose, right? So I'm thinking to myself, instead of dwelling in this and feeling sad, miserable, and down, let me do something for others. So I went to my boss and I said, do you have a budget? Because I did something last year, something a little different, like mugs and stuff. But it's like, you know what? I was thinking to order roses, the beautiful red roses, and to give individual roses to all the ladies that work in her office, and then offered all the gentlemen to bring on their way home, just grab a rose and give it. So I was like trying to spread, it's like, feel that romance. It's just a rose, but it's such a symbol of doing something nice for that person. Yes, this is culturally expected, but grab a rose, do that. He said, that's a great idea. Let's do it. So he gave me allowance. I went to the local store. I ordered 2 dozen beautiful red roses that came this day from Ecuador. And I brought it all individually with those little flacons on the thing. And just a joy. I completely stopped thinking. My heart was filled, and the day was the most rewarding day, seeing how happy they were. Even some didn't like, that's okay. But it didn't matter, because it was the love spreading around. It was the most incredible, rewarding day, because instead of concentrating on me, I said, let's do it. And just thought that guy the technician will bring a rose to his wife or girlfriend that didn't expect it, right? Because normally a lot of men kind of have to be reminded, like, ladies really like it. I just imagining the joy and the warmth that she felt, how special she felt because he brought her that rose, was just enough for me to create the best day for me. So, that's the example that I share.
You are incredibly amazing. Thank you. Thank you for living the teachings. So grateful to you. I know Ken touched upon this subject of shame, right? That it brings on shame. Sometimes these kind of incidents, one downside to the incident is, so now if in case it is that a mother is not talking to her child or children, then when neighbors come in or relatives come in and they go, oh, how's your child doing? And you go, oh, that they haven't talked to me in the last 6 months. There's a shame associated with that, right? When you say, oh, I can't even have a relationship with my child, kind of. So to that part, I actually wanted to, one of the tips or pointers from Eckhart, a direct pointer, is anytime we feel the emotions of guilt, shame, and blame, they are aspects of the ego. The ego is strengthening itself using the shame or guilt. So drop it like a hot piece of coal, right? But like a hot potato, just drop it. I don't know if he says hot coal or hot potato in The Power of Now, but he uses some kind of, he says hot coal. Or I was watching Teal Swan, Ken's favorite teacher. She goes into this thing. I have not watched enough of her videos to actually understand the whole thing. I don't know if you know Ken, but she talks about this thing called fragmentation of the personality, as well as she talks about parts work, right? It's like she was talking to this woman who said she felt shame around being productive. I'm sure Patricia can identify with this. Like,
Yeah.
that she had to always be productive, right? She was Chinese, and her parents always said, you cannot sit, like if she were to sit with a bucket of ice cream and watch TV for 2 or 3 hours, or binge watch. I've never binge watched anything ever in my life, but I've heard people binge watch Netflix, or that's the term, binge watching Netflix or binge watching. So this person could not sit in the bed or on the couch and watch TV continuously, because in the back of her mind, the other personality would say, how are you sitting? You need to be getting up and doing something useful. And so Teal Swan does this beautiful example, like Teal stands in front of her and acts as the second person. The second person is the one that wants to be lazy, that wants to sit in front of the TV and not do anything, right?
Right.
And then Teal moves away. Just imagine, that's how our personalities are. And this person seems to have that kind of, there are multiple personalities. Even Eckhart has talked about it, that there are multiple personalities in one single person. They can be so many different personalities, right? And that's the fragmentation, and that's the integration which comes with presence, that the more presence we can bring, we can integrate these parts. We can see that there's one personality that wants to be lazy, but this personality that has this conditioning of being productive, right? Cannot sit even for a minute quietly, right? Has to be constantly doing something. When I saw that, it again reminded me of my mom, because my mom was that superwoman machine. She would wake up at 5, she would cook, she would clean, she would do the dishes, she would because in India we cook every day. We don't I mean, at that time, and when I was young, we didn't even have, I don't think we had we didn't have a refrigerator. So the vegetables were bought, and Eckhart has talked about the same thing when he was in Spain. The vegetables are bought or purchased for those few days. And once they're exhausted, the vendor comes by and you buy more vegetables and you cook immediately. Every day you cook and you're done. Like, you cook exactly the amount of food you need for lunch. You cook dinner, and you cook exactly the amount that is needed for dinner. And it's exhausted, like it's consumed completely, right? I cannot cook that way. I cook like huge pots of things. My food lasts for 5 days or 10 days. It can last forever. But she would cook, she would wash the clothes, shower, and be at school by 8:30. She was a school teacher. She would be at school, like she would take 2 or 3 buses to get public transportation, and she would be at school. I don't know how she did it, but it was like constant moving this, move that, go do this, go do the laundry, do this. And laundry is done by hand, not like a machine doing laundry. She's washing it, like scrubbing it with a brush and everything, right? So that reminded, that productivity, that shame around not being
Right.
Ho'oponopono, a Hawaiian ancient prayer. I love you.
Ho'oponopono prayer.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Patricia. So Rob, did you have anything else that you wanted to say about this? Thank you.
Yeah, actually, I learned, and I know this is probably general knowledge from a lot of teachers, but Deepak Chopra placed some focus on our world, our outer world, being as if it's 360 degrees of mirrors. And one thing that I've done that's transformed my life is to make the mental shift to see every time there's something in the world that is triggering something within me, the old self would look out at the world and say, I could use Hannah, my daughter, for example. My old self would say, she's not behaving correctly. But in reality, I knew better. I knew she was a mirror image of me. I know, if I get nervous in some other scenario, it's a mirror image of me. And so rather than my focus being on the outer circumstances, I look within myself for the fear or the lack or the insufficiency. And I find that within myself, I change my inner self, and through meditation and all the practices that everyone knows about. And somehow it's miraculous, and the outer circumstances change. And so that's one of the big shifts that I've made in my life, is it is to look at the outer circumstance and then turn it into my own self and try to find something within myself that is malfunctioning or not according to unconditional self-love. Basically, that is the peace that passes all understanding. So yeah, that's been transformational in my life.
Do you have certain examples of the exact behavior and what exactly was the mirror within you that that you would have to correct, self-correct, and then she would get corrected automatically? That it would correct. The correction is you are correcting yourself,
Yes.
but the effect is on her or your children. You want to give an example of that? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Actually, one that comes to mind is work. There was a particular boss at work that I struggled with, and I realized that I needed to change something within myself in order for this relationship to get better. I don't want to get into too many details, but it felt unfair, and I felt diminished and disrespected without giving any details. And so I realized that I was diminishing myself and disrespecting myself on a deeper level, and I was seeing that show up in my world. And when I made the inner shift and said, I need to send myself unconditional self-love, I need to have the vibration of love while I'm speaking to this person. And it transformed the relationship, and it's transformed all relationships now.
Incredible. That's a perfect example. Thank you so much.
Sure.
That was perfect. I'm going to read what MJ says. MJ said, love this. Sometimes we can all take on life as being so serious and restricted, even without being a parent. So without exhibiting any joy and humor and fun, our children and everyone else can feel the lack of joy and want to remove themselves from this heavy energy. I think this is when I was talking about if your child is going to make you feel like there's joy in life, right? Joy for existence, then yeah, children can move away because we have a pain body. Like, how heavy is your, that's beautiful, right? If I have a heavy pain body, why would a child or a partner or anybody want to be around me? Right? So they want to remove themselves from this heavy energy. So our job is to dissolve our own pain body. So what this person can do is, that's a great pointer from MJ, that you can actually look at your own pain body, right? The more you relieve your pain body is when you actually heal.
That's exactly what happened to me with my daughter.
Yes.
Absolutely. That was the way to become more playful, more joyful, just in the moment. And that's, then this will attract people versus the other one. Poor me, nobody loves me, life is against me. That is like, oh, take that person away from me, because right? It's very, I didn't want to be with me. Come on. I expect somebody else to be with me. It's like, who is that miserable thing? I think this is how that was Eckhart's awakening, wasn't it? It's like, like, that has to be another way. I don't want to live that like this, right? It's like, that is not good.
He said, I don't want to live with myself anymore.
Right, exactly.
And then he went, who is this myself that I don't want to live with anymore? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Rob, do you actually follow Eckhart's teachings, or is it something that you know inside out? Like we know Eckhart's teachings inside out. Like, I've done it for like decades, right? So is it like strange when we bring up his teachings, or are you familiar with his teachings?
No, I'm very familiar. listened to the audio versions of The Power of Now and A New Earth. And
Okay.
I've listened to them many, many, many times because I just wanted to embody all of those teachings. And I've put them into practice. He's been a huge influence in my life.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And as Patricia was talking about her win of this Valentine's Day, Ken, you have to talk about your win of Valentine's Day. What did you do? You have
Well,
to tell everyone
Okay,
what you
well,
did, because it's like the most incredible thing. It's incredibly amazing that you are so free that you would go do, and it's from your trip. Last year's trip taught you how to be yourself, be
Oh.
by yourself and enjoy by yourself. So if you want to talk about it, thank you.
sure. Well, last week I knew Valentine's Day was coming up. So I actually said, Ken, what do you want to do? Another part of me. And I said, oh, you want to go skiing? He says, all right. So I said, how about if I take you out on a date? And so I did. I did exactly what I wanted to do. And I said, well, I really don't feel like driving the same day because it's a 3.5 hour drive. So I said, why don't we go the night before, take our time. Then the next day, Valentine's Day, we're just going to love ourselves. And I went out, I had dinner. I took myself and I with me. And so I did, and then I actually called a friend of mine that I knew lived in New Hampshire. And he said he was available. So we spent 3-4 hours talking and whatnot. And it was funny. And so that was really my Valentine's gift to myself. So I'm really learned this, the self-love and giving to myself really is going against the grain. And I love the way you were expressing things before about we have different parts of ourselves and different polarities. And lots of times I had certain polarities that ran the show. And they had a whip. And they were very determined to get things done. And that's when I lived my life from just doing. I was always doing. I didn't know how to be. And then when I retired, I learned to be. And now I'm like, I can't believe I was actually the way I was when I was doing all the time. I was like a slave driver.
You were like my mother. My mother would give us, like, even during summer, like kids get a month vacation for summer, right? Even during vacation, she would give us tasks like cleaning the rice. Like in India, you take rice and you take out all the stones out of the rice because they put stones in the rice. So
Mhm.
you clean it, like they buy things in bulk. And so you clean everything, you clean the wheat, so that you can grind it to make wheat flour, right? So you clean the grain, even lentils, you clean everything. And she would give us that task, like we couldn't sit. Like in her mind, nobody was, nor was she allowed to sit,
Exactly.
nor was anybody around her allowed to sit quietly and do nothing. Like I had to clean or organize, but I actually loved organizing. So I would like clean all the shelves, take everything out and then organize, you know how we organize our pantry and everything, like
Mhm.
bookshelves and everything. I would like maybe store clothes and everything, closets, but we could not sit. We could not sit. We could not enjoy as children. We had to be doing something useful, what the mind says.
Exactly. And that makes the child think there's something wrong with them because the parent has to be right. And it makes you wrong. And then later on, the parent says, how come my child's that way? And
Thinking
what
that
it
they're
is,
not enough.
they can't be themselves. They're
Yes.
trying to be somebody they're not. And usually the parent is trying to condition them to think their way. And I was actually one of those parents too. So the very thing I didn't like, I did the same thing. So it's amazing. And I'm just so thankful that we finally hit a bottom where we go, okay, we got to break the chain here in the family.
We are all healing. We are
Yeah.
all healing.
Absolutely.
And like Patricia says, maybe we are healing the future generation and the generation of the past.
Mhm.
It actually is, we're healing all of humanity, because as we transform ourselves, so if I take out that conditioned pattern of cutting people off in my life, then hopefully it's a conditioned pattern that my soul takes back, right? And
Yes.
tells consciousness, no, humanity does not need to know this pattern anymore.
Yes. Isn't it amazing how doing the heart work and then loving and then being present and consciousness, that all ties in. That's the energy, that's the frequency. And it's amazing. I've been doing, even with the group, there's more and more growth, there's more expansion, and more little pieces come together like building a puzzle. And I'm just amazed. Even this conversation tonight, Rob has said a couple of things, David. And so it's just amazing how being around different energies automatically changes what we're used to.
Let me
Please.
check the comments once more. Mike said, hello, everyone. Hello, Mike. And hello to Lakshmi and MJ and Louise. So, yeah, that was it. I think we're good. We're good. This was like a fantastic discussion. So thankful. Rob, are you going to come back next week?
Yes, absolutely. As long as I'm welcome, I love being here. I love
You're
being
more
able
than
to,
welcome. You're
feel
more
the
than welcome.
energy and contribute any way I can. Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. I loved all the examples that everyone offered. Rob, yourself, Ken, Patricia, this was incredibly amazing. I'm like eternally grateful, so grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. And thank you to Louise and Lakshmi and Christina, Mike, that were online with us, MJ. So grateful. Many blessings. Much love. We'll meet
Thank you.
again next week, same time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.